Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Candid Convos with Anna B. Today, I've got another guest, my dear friend Sam. Me and her have been trying to take this video for so long. So we're happy we're finally doing this. I'll ask her to introduce herself before I tell you what we are talking about.
Okay, hi guys. My name is Samantha, but please call me Sam Water. And I'm a mom, a single mom, divorced and a single mom now. But I think what's more important about me is I am a chief of sinners who has been saved by grace. I think for me, that's very important. Above anything else that I could tell you or share about myself is that I am here today because of God's grace. Thank you so much, Anne, for having me on board. Yes, we have been waiting for this meeting like forever. And it's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for introducing yourself. So today we're going to talk about approval addiction. So approval addiction is the need for everyone to understand you and approve of you. Like literally before you make a decision, you're always going to people like, what do you think? What can I do? So that's what we're talking about. Sam, do you have anything to say about it just to begin?
Okay, so as you rightfully put it, it is having that need to have people approve everything literally about your life. So for me, it's also got issues of self-esteem, self-worth issues. You're a people pleaser. I mean, all of us can be people pleasers because it's sometimes life is just not about you. You know, it's about sharing your journey and sometimes doing things for people genuine. But there's that fine line, you know, where you know you're actually now crossing over. And this is just too much because it's taking away value of self and putting all the emphasis on the next person, what they think, what they want, what they need, you know, more than you.
I like that. I like that because that's the importance of actually knowing ourselves first. Because if you don't know who you are, the world will define who you become. So in every room that you step, you feel like they need to always understand me. And I think that's why a lot of people stop doing what God has called us to do because we think we don't qualify. Like, who am I to be in a room full of people who are more qualified than me? And you find yourself conforming to what everyone else is doing instead of actually saying, I'm unique, I'm different, and I'm with that. I know I struggled with self-esteem issues as a young girl. I have thick legs and everyone around me had thin legs, right? To a point where my friend and I decided, let's drink vinegar. Maybe our legs will shrink.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, really? Oh no.
I think it's crazy. But to be honest, that's what happens when you don't know who you are. You think you have to look like everyone in the room, yet it's uniqueness that makes you beautiful. It's not being like everyone else.
Yes. And I think another point when we're defining approval addiction is that whatever you're doing, whether you're saying it or you're doing it, it's coming from a space of, I don't want to rock the boat. So I want people to be comfortable, but you're overlooking your own comfort. You're overlooking how much you are putting in for someone else to be comfortable. Understand? And that's cumbersome. That's it's tough. It's tough living up to someone's expectation of, you've got to be like this, you've got to be like that. And unfortunately, we're living in a society where now, more than before, the societal pressures to be someone you're really not, so that you're conforming to someone's value system or belief system is too much. It's insurmountable. And if you don't learn as a person to draw the line, to say, you know, this is not me. I'm putting myself out too much. At what expense? Drawing that line is very important.
And can you tell us a little about people we seek validation from, in your own experience, or if you've ever been through that, where you went through a time where you're like, people need to understand me for the sake of fitting in or just being accepted by the people around me?
Okay. So the first category is parents. Woo! God forgive me. I hope our parents are not listening. But
Yeah.
and I kid you not, I think for the longest time as a young child, as a young girl, I looked up to my mom a lot. And I just needed her approval. I was in that space where yes, I was being Sam, but I'm also in the back of my head, it's neatly tucked in that I'm also Sam who happens to be her daughter.
Yeah.
And so whatever I do is reflecting on her life. So it almost became too much for me, because I ceased then to become a person, my own person, because I'm thinking every action, every words, every this and that, I'm doing it because I need to make my mom proud. But there's a very fine line. I keep coming back to that fine line issue that as children, yes, parents have an expectation of us as children, and we need to live up to that expectation. But there's a certain time in life where you get to that point where you realize, okay, now I'm an adult and I'm becoming myself more and more. And there's certain concepts or ideations that you then decide to take on, which your parents, mom or dad, can think, no. But you then have to say, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm sorry about this, mom or dad, because this is me and I am living my own life. And I want to believe that having to get to that space is not easy, because in the African setup, you obey. It's their way or the highway, you know. It's different for white children, where their opinion, they have that freedom to be themselves, you know. Whereas with us African children, it's a completely different ballgame. I mean, if the parent can be a parent until the day you die, you know, she'll still be mom, even when you are a mom to like 1,000 dozen kids, you know, she's still the mom, and whatever she says goes. So that approval addiction can actually slip into us, even as adults, when you're seeking that validation from your parents consistently. So parents is one area. Then there's church. I think for me, church is a big thing, because growing up in a Christian home, you are told that everything about God, everything you're doing revolves around you being a Christian. Auntie, you're a child of God. So your actions should be reflective of that ideation. You're a child of God. So now I find that nowadays, our relationship with God, is it genuinely out of me seeking a personal relationship with the Lord, but I'm doing it so that people at church can see the God in me. See, and that's not to say that God is in me. It's more of, I want people to have this ideation of Sam. She's very spiritual. She's a woman after God's own heart. I'm seeking to be validated in that concept. But is that truly who I am? Do you understand? Are we going to church just for God, or we're actually doing it to please the other person, to please church members, to please family members, to say, I grew up in a Christian home. It's mandatory to go to church every Sabbath. but am I doing it for myself?
I actually wanted to add on that part that you're talking about church, because I think for so long I felt like I was an imposter in church.
Yes.
Yes. I felt like you have to perform,
yes.
You need to be a certain way. And I knew I could recite the verses, I could do the finders, the everything, but I felt empty, and I found, like you were saying, I was doing it for other people, and I hadn't had a personal encounter with God. Like I knew I had to be in church, I had to look a certain way, but like you were talking about earlier, no matter who you're doing it for, if it's for the wrong reasons, you're always going to be drained. So I even left church for a while where you're just like, you know what, this church thing is overrated. But I've found that once I had my own encounter, I'm not anymore, because I know who I am. And I think that's the advantage sometimes of being born in a Christian family, where you adopt something, but you actually don't have that personal encounter, and saying to yourself, I actually need help. Because I felt like in church, you could never say, I'm struggling, I don't enjoy reading the Bible. Like literally, I had moments where I would say to myself, okay, let me read the Bible. And in the middle of praying, I would sleep and I would wake up and it's the next day. But who do you tell? So I love what you're saying, to say sometimes we want to please our parents, want to please the people around us, that we forget that we also need to take care of ourselves and be honest about what we need. And I actually wanted to ask you to say, so what are some of the insecurities that people have? I know you're a fitness coach, right? And I'm a life coach. And I've seen people who come to me who look so amazing on the outside, but inward, they are struggling, and they think, if I lose weight, then I'll be fine. Or if I change my outside, if I'm lighter and I use those lightening skills, I'm going to be better. So what have you seen in your own experience that you can help people who struggle with their self-worth and self-esteem?
Okay. I really love what you just said right now, that you find that a lot of people want to change the outward look. We're so concerned with putting out that picture. Yekuti, I'm good. My life is perfect. I'm fine. I'm light-skinned. I'm beautiful. The craze is real, just to be that shining diamond, and yet deep inside you've got deep-seated issues. And many times I tell my fitness clients that, we could exercise, we could eat well, we could do everything we can to look good, to lose the weight, to live healthy. But if we're carrying a lot of emotional baggage, intentionally, we're angry, we are depressed, we are unforgiving, because it's weird that you can actually see the most healthiest of person who's mean-spirited, and you think, how in the living lights are you carrying all that baggage? How are you surviving? How are you healthy on the outside and yet inside you're dying? But also now, drawing this closer to our topic of approval addiction, I find that it's not only emotional baggage, is not only the depression, the anger, but also this ideation of trying to fit in, feeling I'm not worth it, having issues with self-esteem. It's actually a very big thing. And if it's not dealt with, either going for therapy or talking to somebody, sometimes you don't even have the funds to go for therapy, but just reaching out to someone to say, listen here, I've got a problem. And you've got to help me because I've got issues with self-worth and self-esteem. You've got to recognize. I think that's the first thing. Recognize that you've got a problem. It's so much easier. You've actually gone 50% into solving the situation, because it's difficult to carry someone to hospital who's saying, I'm not sick. They will never be healed. They will never be cured of whatever ailments they have, because it's in their minds, that it's engraved that I'm not sick, But the moment you acknowledge that you've got a problem, you've got issues with self-esteem, self-worth, and you're constantly thinking, I am not good enough, you have 50% gone into the journey to actually get yourself the self-help. So yeah, I insist a lot on therapy. I insist a lot on having self-introspection journeys to actually journalize things. I think it's a very good idea because I'm a writing person. I write a lot. So I used to have a journal as when I was a young girl that whenever I had issues, I would write my issues down. And now when I'm older, I've got a whole stack of journals that I've had ever since when I was in Pathfinderhood, and I'm reading, I'm like, oh, woman, this is where you came from, but it's important because then you see your life's journey. You actually you're talking to yourself when you journalize stuff, because then you're open. It's like you're in that space where you're judging yourself. You are the one who's judging. You're the presiding judge, and you're there and you're looking into your life and you're just saying, oh my gosh, this is the journey I've had to take on, but I need to change certain things, A, B, C, and D. That's also important. Also, cognitive behavioral therapy is another area that people can actually get into, where you after what's the word? After admitting that, okay, I have a problem, I've got issues with my self-esteem, you want to, and then you're able to actually go for the therapy. You have the financial muscle to get into therapy. Cognitive behavior is things we do subconsciously without thought, because I think many of these things were embodied in us as children. And we didn't even realize it, that most of our issues as adults came in as we were growing up, because children learn what they leave. So as children, if and now I realize it as a mom, and I'm looking at my daughter and I'm thinking a lot of things she's formulating in her brain. If I'm not careful as a mom, I'm actually paving a way for her as an adult that will manifest only when she becomes an adult. So cognitively, some of the things we do, it's subconscious. We're not even thinking about it. It's so much easier to just say, okay, someone comes into your house, for example, and says, oh my gosh, your sofas, they kind of work well with the yellow. Why didn't you get yellow sofas? And in the back of your head, you're like, oh, you're right, hey? I shouldn't have gone for black. I should have done yellow. And now you're putting all that pressure that I need to buy yellow. So, like, excuse me. Number one, what color sofas? I prefer black, finish and clear, but it's so much easier for someone to then put an ideation in your brain and you take it on as if it's yours, without realizing that it's someone who's instilling their own value system and beliefs into your own life. And so that's what the cognitive behavioral therapy will do, because then it enhances you to be in control over your own life. And daily affirmations, I need to also mention that. Just waking up every morning and saying to yourself, I'm beautiful. I'm a child of King. I'm a child of God. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And that's not to say you are perfect and you don't make mistakes. No, but that's just to remind yourself daily to say, a child of God, a child of a king deserves it just as much as the other person. And so whatever is coming to the other person can also come to you as well. And you deserve it, that type of thing. So affirmations actually really good because it's speaking into your life every day. You don't wait for another person to tell you you're beautiful, you're amazing, you're good at A, B, C, and D. You tell yourself that. You're speaking life into your own presence. Yeah.
I love that. And I wanted to say to you, because you've walked your own journey of needing to put your foot down on what was best for you. How has that been when you decided to make the decision to say now you're a single mom? What are the things that you had to face in society that were hard? Did you ever question yourself, or you were just one of those who's like, I've got thick skin? Yeah, tell us more about it, because this
It
is the
wasn't
reality.
easy. Okay, it was. Thank you so much for that. It wasn't easy, and it was hard. It was difficult to find myself, because I, for a longest time, I succumbed to approval addiction. I was that kind of child where I lived up to other people's expectations, and I needed it. It was a crave. It was something that I couldn't live without. And now, when I found myself divorced and now a single mom, hey, I kid you not, it then was worse, because now I'm thinking, what are people thinking? What are they saying about my life? I need to live a certain way because single mother already has a stigma in the society. So I need to be a certain way for people to actually accept me, for people to take me serious. And even after I crossed the hurdle where I just found myself and I said, Sam, you cannot continue to live like this. You have got to take the reins over your own life. And so you're moving in this direction now. Okay. So I had to make the decision to say, we're not doing this anymore. We're moving in a different direction. You're going to affirm yourself. You're going to move. You're going to make a conscious decision every day to live a better life, to live a life for God and for yourself. And so, but I realized that even taking on that stance did not in any way negate the societal's the impression is jumping over me, but as if to say society was still society. Nothing had changed about them. It's me who had taken on the different stance, but they still would look at me and still throw in this huge expectations and to say, Sam, you're divorced, you're single now. And so we are expecting this, whether you like it or not. That didn't change. It still continued regardless. But I still found, I found the strength in God. I found the strength in God because then every day I realized I had to wake up every morning and to say, Lord, I can't do this by myself. I still find myself sipping into those habits of, okay, so what are people thinking? Did I say the right words? And you've got to help me overcome that. I am a better woman than that, Lord. But if I'm going to use my own strength, then I'm going to fail. But I love the scripture that says, His strength is made perfect in our times of weakness, and His grace is sufficient to us. And every day I am claiming that from God. And I'm saying, Lord, you put that scripture in your word for a purpose, for my season. And so every day I am claiming that because I know that this journey on my own, it's not easy. But with God, all things are possible, Yeah.
I love that. And what are some of the things that maybe people used to say to you? Oh, FYI, Sammy has started a podcast where she actually shares her journey. And I've been listening to it. And you mentioned something actually where you said there's a guy who found out that you were now single. And you have people hitting on you who are married because they think every woman is the same, and people are always thinking you're after their husbands just because you're single, So how have you managed to deal with that? Because maybe someone who's watching who's single may be thinking, people don't get me, and I'm going through the same thing that you mentioned. So how did you deal with that, or how do you deal with it?
Okay. So, yes, as you rightfully put it, it's been a journey where it's been hard as taking on that journey of my own accord to just make a stance, because this guy is a childhood friend. He's not like a stranger. He's someone from my childhood, someone I've known. And for him to openly come out and say, Sam, I know about your podcast, but I can't be bothered. I know it's some, because his ideation is that everyone has a price. So there's nothing special about you, Sam. At some point, you're going to cave in.
Yeah. Wow.
At some point, you will cave in because you've got a price tag. And that is so true. That is so very much true. Everyone has a price tag, but to what cost? To what end do you take it on? Do you know? So I listened to him as he shared his own way of thinking and how much he thinks he's going to change my mind. And the more we dialogued and conversed and went back and forth, I actually realized, no, we're both set in our minds. And regardless of this dialogue, everyone is thinking, I'm going to win. So I let it be. But that whole concept of you're now single, you're divorced and you're a single mom, it's gone prevalent. Like, as I mentioned it in my podcast, that a lot of people right now, when they see a single mom, especially when she's keeping herself well and she's looking good, it's so much easier to then assume that, oh, this one is after your husband.
Yeah.
Yes, she wants to be the side chick, and yet I have openly come out to say I probably represent a very small percentage of the society of single mothers that I'm saying it's not true. Not every one of us wants to be a side chick. I mean, surely I am fearfully and I am wonderfully made by God. All this is God's design. All to be a side chick. Huh? Like, really? It's madness.
But it also goes back to where you started, where you were saying that's why you need to love yourself and not be looking for approval from people.
Yes.
It's so easy for people to tie their identity to being called Mrs. or having someone, and thinking if you're single and you have no one, it means something is wrong with you. And is that why a lot of people compromise and say it's better that I have a little of have nothing at all. So guys, go check out her podcast. I'll put the link below because you will learn a lot from her. And I love the fact that you're actually opening up about it, because I think sometimes we assume that everyone is the same. And you were saying, no, I'm different. I'm not even going to keep quiet about it. And I'm going to share my journey. And it's been a process, like you were saying.
Yes.
I don't want to say everything in your podcast, so people go and listen, but you've mentioned that it's been a journey, and sometimes people don't understand and people start addressing you differently, but you've managed to handle everything. And maybe to end, I want you to share an encouragement for others who do not know who they are, who struggle with approval addiction, who always think that their identity is tied to a career, a relationship, or having your parents and everyone wants you to be a certain way. Like you said, it's like a craving that you can't live without. Yes. And I know even here, mental health issues have increased because of that approval addiction. People think if they get one like, or if you have 100 followers and not 10,000, or like me on YouTube, if I don't have 10,000 followers, then something is wrong with me. So you stop being out, or you start doing crazy things so that people can see. We learned that people are going viral on TikTok doing the craziest thing because Can you encourage someone who's probably struggling with that on how they can actually get out of it? You shared a few points, but can you encourage them?
Okay. So number one, prioritize you. Nurture self-love. You can't expect someone else to love you if you don't love yourself. I believe that strongly. Learn to every day wake up and look in the mirror. This sounds very silly, but I do it every day. I wake up in the mirror, I look in the mirror and I say, I love you, Sam. Flaws and all, frailties, fallibility, everything. I love you the way you are. And I love that you're going through this process of growth and self-interest. Speak life into your own presence. Don't wait for someone to tell you how good you are. Yes, well done if you do something good and people applaud and they're happy for you. That's good. But let it come after you have initially applauded yourself. When you stand up and you say, I am who I am today. And you are not apologetic, you're not ashamed of it. You stand up for yourself. That nurturing of self-love, I think for me is very important. That's the first step you get into avoiding issues of having this addiction of approval. Number two, I want people to actually get treatment because we don't realize that this is a mental health issue. And if you're not in that space, if you don't actually take it on as something that is grave and it will harm you long term, you will live forever in this addiction and you will just be thinking it's normal. A lot of people think addiction is alcohol, it's sex, it's abuse of medication or marijuana or the sorts. But we don't even realize that there's certain mental issues that actually are an addiction in our lives. And if we don't put precedence or weight on those certain things, they will continue to be a part of our lives and we think it's normal. Get treatment. Accept you have a problem. Mental, what's the word? Beyond just accepting, you have to get to that space where you realize I need help and you seek for that help. And after you seek for that help, don't expect that it's just going to go off or go away just like a poof, like it's gone. No, it's going to continually come back because I know scripture says the devil is like lurking behind, seeking whom he may devour. So the devil is always there. He will never let you go because when he knows that you've got this certain addiction, he will consistently use experiences in our lives or past to come back and to haunt us and to remind us about that life. So you're not just going to get over it in one day. Be patient with yourself. You're consistently going to be faced with situations where you're in that space where you're comparing me or them. What is what they say better, or is what I'm thinking better? My opinion, their opinion, and getting to that space where you realize, okay, I feel it, it's coming back again, but taking control and to say, I'm not going to succumb to this emotion. I'm not going to succumb to the pressure of living up to someone's expectations. Then well done. That's a step. But if you do fall, of which you are because you're human, you are going to fall time and again. Get up. Don't stay down and think, oh my gosh, I failed today, so I'm back at it again. You get up, you dress up, and you show up tomorrow for your life. And you ensure that you do better. Yes. Yeah. And I want to emphasize this concept, especially when it comes to approval addiction. Learn to say no and be comfortable with no. Just be in that space where if it's not working for you, it's not meeting your needs, it's not good for you. No, no, and be okay with that. We're living in a generation where people are afraid to say no, because then the moment you step up to affirm or to be this very high self-esteemed person, people will then think, she's very prideful. Who does she think she is? But I'm sorry, it's a no, I can't do it. It has nothing to do with me being prideful. It has nothing to do with me thinking I'm better than you. I'm not. I'm just saying no. So it's very important in the journey of approval addiction and getting over it, to be able to realize it way ahead of time, go through the phases and the seasons, and you'll make it alive. You'll make it alive.
Thank you, girl. You're full of wisdom, like I always tell you. And we actually had a lot to discuss, but our 30 minutes are up. So hopefully you can come again and share. But do not forget to like, share, and subscribe so that this information can get to more people. And if you would want to listen to a podcast, I've put her link below if you want to get in touch with her, because she's also a coach, so she will definitely help you. I'll put her information. So if you've gotten to the end of our video, thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.
Bye, guys.